What's up everyone, I'm CallumOnToast, and in today's video I'm going to be showcasing some battles in the Galar Cup with a team that helped me to regain 200 plus elo in just 5 sets, going 20-5 on the day, and that team has Qwilfish in the lead, Shadow Frostsass as the save swap, and Shadow Golurk as the closer. Now this is an ABB style team by definition, but with Golurk and Frostsass having such different coverage, I didn't really feel the need to swap out of my lead matchups unless it was a very bad matchup. Now before we get into the battles, I want to say that I was thinking of streaming last night, but didn't really have any ideas for a theme, and eventually I just decided that I wasn't really feeling it. But if you guys have any unique ideas that I could do for a live stream in the future, please do let me know. I think it works better in streams where I'm running lots of different teams that have maybe something in common, rather than just sticking to the one team for 25 battles. But yeah, let me know in the comment section down below, and with that being said, let's get into the question of the day. What do you think is the strongest closer in the Galar Cup? Let me know in the comment section down below, and with that being said, let's get into the battles now. Alright, so going into the first battle, and I do want to mention, I just did the whole commentary for this 26 minutes worth of battles before realizing that my webcam wasn't on, so that is great. But into the first battle, we lead into Toxapex, and I'm just going to stay in, wait for them to throw their energy, then swap, banking all of the energy on my Qwilfish, because there's no point throwing any Aquatels into a Toxapex. We swap into our Frostsass, and the opponent comes in with a Diggersby, which seems like a very strange decision, but once you see their third and final Pokemon, it will make sense. But either way, I can tank whatever they throw here. They go for Scorching Sands, they don't get the debuff to my attack, which means a boosted triple axle will be enough damage to get the KO up against the Diggersby, and they come in with a Mandibuzz, so explains why they came in with the Diggersby. They were double weak to the ice typing, but they probably should have just stayed in with the Toxapex. But either way, banking the energy on my Qwilfish comes in clutch, as now we can fire off the Ice Beam, dealing huge damage, and we can also make it to an Aquatel. Aquatel is going to get the Mandibuzz into range, where actually we can just come in with our Shadow Golurk and Mudslap farm them down. They full send the Dark Pulse, they get the KO, but that's okay. They're probably going to swap straight away into their Toxapex now, and this is going to be game over. I can just safely double shield my Shadow Golurk, go for a full Mudslap farm down, and the opponent recognizing there's nothing they can do, so they just concede the match. So GG's to opponent there into the next battle. Going to see a Whimsicott in the lead, so a great lead matchup for us. Of course, these Poison Stings hitting for double super effective damage. Going to no-shield the first move. A Seed Bomb or a Grass Knot is going to be neutral, but it's not really going to put us into farm down range. I'm going to farm up here, throwing just before they make it to back-to-back charge moves, but unfortunately the Aquatel doesn't quite get the KO there. If I tried to throw it on CMP, of course I would have thrown one extra Poison Sting, and I wouldn't have had to use extra energy there, but it doesn't really matter. Either way, we're going to swap into our Shadow Frostsass, firing off the triple axle, and from a Shadow Frostsass, the threat of an avalanche is pretty much always going to grab a shield. So the opponent does shield that, the opponent goes for the Brutal Swing, that actually doesn't get the KO though, so I'm able to make it to a boosted triple axle, and triple axle very nearly gets the KO. They do just barely hang on, but it doesn't really matter. We can come in with the Qwilfish, tank the energy here, and we should be able to Mudslap farm them down before they get off another Brutal Swing, which we're able to do, and they come back in with the Quagsire. Typically this is not a good matchup, but we do have a shield advantage, so going to use my first shield there on the Aquatel. Going to go for one Mudslap, fire off the Shadow Punch, making sure to throw on good timing, and we are just one Mudslap away from the next charge move, so going to fire off Shadow Punch number 2. The Shadow Punch from this range gets the KO, and I'm able to take that game. So GG's to opponent there into the next battle. We're going to see Qwilfish into a load of Ninetales. So another great lead matchup for us. The opponent is going to stay in initially, and then swapping into a Mandibuzz. Now behind our energy, Frostsass isn't going to be a great response, but if we just stay in, go for the Ice Beam, and it connects, now we put them into range where actually I can just tank this move, come in with my Frostsass. I will have to use one shield, but I can go for a huge Powder Snow farm down, and Shadow Frostsass's energy is very strong in this meta. So we're going to shield out the Dark Pulse there. We're going to go for the full Powder Snow farm down, and let's see, the opponent's going to come in with a Toxapex, of course, going to resist the Ice type damage, but that doesn't matter as we can full send the Shadow Ball. Shadow Ball does about 50% of their HP, and now I'm going to go and fire off a triple axle, probably going to grab a shield, a little bit of a risky bait, not really any reason to bait there, but either way, we go for triple axle, we grab the shield. Brian actually doesn't take us out there, but either way we should be looking good. I'm going to come in with my Shadow Golurk, expecting the opponent to eventually swap out of this matchup. They swap back into Ninetales, unable to throw on the CMP tie, so going to fire off the Aquatel. Aquatel is going to grab the final shield, and unless they go for Side Shock, I should be able to live a Weather Ball from this range, and we do live the Weather Ball. I'm able to make it to another Aquatel. I actually didn't really need this Aquatel to land, but it doesn't really matter. It definitely helps us out, as now we can come in with the Golurk, and instead of firing off a charge move, I can just commit one shield, go for the full Mud Slap farm down here, coming out with energy, and go for one extra Mud Slap, fire off the Shadow Punch on good timing, and of course, Shadow Punch takes out the Toxapex, and I'm able to take that game. So GG's to opponent there into the next battle. Can see Qwilfish into a Shadow Dusknoir. Now this is a very tricky matchup for us, of course. They're going to resist the Poison Sting damage, but if we do connect with an Aqua Tail, I'm actually going to swap into my Shadow Golurk, and this seems like a very strange decision, but these Mud Slaps are chunking. Of course, we're taking super effective damage from the Astonishes, but we actually get the Mud Slap farm down just as they're reaching a second Shadow Punch, which is huge for me. As we get the farm down there, they're going to come in with a Goodra. We fire off the Dynamic Punch, dealing big damage. Unfortunately, the damage from that final Mud Slap does not register, but we still put them into a Powder Snow farm down range, so we come in with the Shadow Frost Sash. Gonna no-shield this as the opponent goes for the Aqua Tail, and they've got a Mandibuzz in the back, so having an energy advantage is pretty helpful, but we are at a shield disadvantage, so it's still going to be a pretty tricky situation in the end game. The opponent is going to fire off their first Charge Move. I'm going to use my final shield as I need these boosted Powder Snows to land, basically putting them into Ice Beam range on the Qwilfish. So we go for the triple axle, grab the final shield. We're now going to swap into Qwilfish, and can we live a Dark Pulse from this range? I'm pretty confident that we will, and the opponent thinks they're going to have to land back-to-back Aerial Aces instead, but we're able to outpace them to the Ice Beam, and Ice Beam hits for super effective damage. It gets the KO up against the Mandibuzz, and I'm able to take that game. So GG's to opponent there into next battle. You can see a Gastrodon in the lead, so we're going to Safe Swap into our Shadow Frost Sash, and the opponent is going to commit to an Earth Power, which means I can throw a Charge Move first. We're going to go for the triple axle, grab a shield there. Once again, the threat of an Avalanche from Shadow Frost Sash grabs that shield advantage. I tried to call a bait there. Unfortunately, it doesn't work out as the opponent does full send the Earth Power. Basically just didn't want to shield a Body Slam, so I'm going to come in with the Shadow Golurk, and they come in with a Drifblim. Now, of course, going to fire off the Shadow Punch. Shadow Punch does big damage, but we're going to have to swap out of that matchup into my Qwilfish, and Qwilfish is hitting for resisted damage with these Poison Stings. They also go for an Icy Wind there, so can we get the farm down? We're just barely not going to be able to do so, so I'm forced to throw an Aqua Tail here. Aqua Tail will get the KO there, but unfortunately we are debuffed, so if they come back in with the Gastrodon, Aqua Tail's not going to do that much damage in this matchup, but we do grab a shield there, and I think this is probably a mistake. I could have gone for one Poison Sting, fired off the Aqua Tail, and then swapped out of this matchup, but instead we go for the Ice Beam there, as I knew it would do more damage. It still doesn't get the KO though. They can fire off the Earth Power, and they've got Clefable in the back, so unfortunately this will be game over. We're going to fire off a Shadow Punch. I'm not running Earth Power though, so we have to commit to the Shadow Punch. Their Dynamic Punch is resisted, and as a result the opponent makes it to the Moonblast, taking out my Golurk, and unfortunately we do lose that game. But GG's to opponent there into next battle, another Gastrodon in the lead. So going to Safe Swap into my Shadow Frost Sash, this time met with a Charizard, and very poor fast move timing on my end, but we also did lag a little bit there, so it was a little bit awkward. But either way, they go for the full Fire Spin farm down. We do grab that shield advantage once again though, which is very nice. And we come back in with our Qwilfish. Qwilfish is very glassy, but I should be able to live one Charge Move. I'm not really sure how we CMP tied here, because of course, four 2-turn fast moves up against 3 3-turn fast moves, we should just outpace them. But either way, we take them out with the Aqua Tail. We're going to swap into our Shadow Golurk, and once again they have Clefable in the back, but this is very different as we've got 2 shields remaining. I'm going to shield the first move. They full send the Moonblast there. Of course, if we shielded a Swift, that would have been very awkward for us, but now we can just go for the Shadow Punch. I throw on poor timing once again, just because I figured at that point they probably weren't going to throw a Charge Move, but they are actually going to shield for another Charge Move. They go for the Moonblast, which means I can commit to a full farm down there. I'm pretty sure I've got a Shadow Punch and a Dynamic Punch loaded, so we go for the Shadow Punch first. We're now going to swap into Qwilfish, basically just forcing them to throw their energy, as the Poison Sting damage should be enough chip damage to put them into range where a Dynamic Punch will get the KO. So we're going straight for Dynamic Punch, and it does get the KO. We take out the Gastrodon, and I'm able to take that game. So GG's to upload there into the next battle. We're going to see a Quagsire in the lead. So once again, going to Safe Swap into my Shadow Frost Sash, this time met with a Drapion. So going straight for triple axle, and once again we should be grabbing a shield advantage in this matchup, as the threat of an Avalanche is going to grab that shield. So at this point I'm going to call a bait here. I realized if they bait with an Aqua Tail they would actually outpace me to the crunch, so instead we figured we've already grabbed a shield advantage, might as well just let that next move go through. As now we're going to come in with the Quillfish, they go for Crunch. I'm realizing that Aquatail should put them into range where we can snipe with our Mud Stabs on the Shadow Golurk. So we go for the snipe, and we do get that snipe, taking them out with the Mud Stab damage. They're going to come back in with the Quagsire, and once again, this is a good matchup for Quagsire, but we do have a shield advantage. So at this point, I'm going to just double shield. I realized if I throw a Shadow Punch straight away, that would not get the KO, so might as well continue to Mud Stab farm them down, to the point where I actually farm up to 100 energy before throwing a Charge Weave. Shadow Punch will definitely get the KO. They actually shield that, so I'm going to throw the second Shadow Punch straight away. Shadow Punch number 2 takes out the Quagsire, and they've actually got a Ninetales in the back, so we're going to bank a Dynamic Punch, swap into Quillfish. The opponent is going to fire off a Weather Ball once again, which isn't enough damage. We can make it to the Aquatail. Aquatail should put them into range where even a Shadow Punch will get the KO, and honestly, I couldn't remember if I did bank that Dynamic Punch there, so we play it safe. We fire off the Shadow Punch. Shadow Punch takes out the Ninetales, and I'm able to take that game. So GG to opponent there into next battle. We're going to see a Kanto Ninetales this time around. Either way, still a great matchup for the Quillfish. The opponent's going to stay in initially, then swapping into Quagsire. I'm actually going to chip with an Aquatail just because that means we can now come in with our Shadow Frost Sass and then just go for triple axles instead of full sending a Shadow Ball to get the KO. The opponent doesn't even farm up to a potential Stone Edge, so very easy no shield for me, and I now can just go and throw on the CMP tie, going for triple axle. Triple axle gets the KO there. And the opponent's going to come back in with a Ninetales. We actually get damage registration error, although it doesn't really help me that much in this situation just because triple axle, even with the boost, doesn't really do that much damage. But maybe you put some into Poison Sting farm down range. No, never mind. They're definitely not going to get farmed down by Poison Stings, but they have farmed up a ton of energy. So at this point, I'm definitely going to respect the damage here as the opponent is going to full send a Solar Beam. They're going to swap into Toxapex, and unfortunately for them, Shadow Golurk can come in and just fully Mud Slap farm down the entire team. Going to use my final shield here as they go for a Brine, but that's absolutely okay. I can farm up to well over back-to-back Shadow Punches. Shadow Punch number 1 is going to get the KO there as the opponent recognizing there's nothing they can do anymore. We Mud Slap, farm down the Ninetales, and I'm able to take that game. So GG to opponent there into the next battle. Going to see a Togetic in the lead, so a great matchup for us. The opponent's going to safe swap into a Drifloon, and honestly, I kind of panicked here. Of course, Astonish going to hit for big damage up against my Shadow Frost Sass, so I can't really swap out straight away. We go for the Ice Beam there, but the opponent shields, and I should have just read they're going to shield because they're going to try and debuff my attack here. But either way, we're going to stay in with the Quillfish, fire off another Ice Beam here. We're debuffed, but the opponent's going to double shield, and yeah, that's where not baiting with an Aquatail really damages me because unfortunately, they would have just been able to Astonish farm me down, and then they make a very nice catch there, catching a debuffed triple axle onto their Mantine. So really nice play, and they come in with a third flying type Pokemon as well. So unfortunately, Shadow Golurk really doesn't have much play in this battle, and they are running Bubble as well, so going to hit for super effective damage up against the Shadow Golurk, but I can't really come in with my Quillfish either, so unfortunately, this is looking like it's game over. There's not a lot we can do here. We're going to go and fire off the Shadow Punch. Shadow Punch is going to be no shielded. We're trying to swap out into our Quillfish, but unfortunately get a bit of stutter lag. We're not able to reach even an Aquatail, but I don't think it really matters at this point. A Shadow Punch, even if we did land the Aquatail there, wouldn't quite KO, so it doesn't really matter. The opponent can go and fire off the Aerial Ace, taking out our Shadow Golurk, and unfortunately we do lose that game. But GG to opponent there into the next battle, a much better lead matchup for us, and the opponent's going to safe swap into a Steelix, so we're going straight for the Aquatail here. This will just guarantee you that we can Mud Slap farm them down with our Shadow Golurk, although if they did actually farm up to a potential crunch, I probably would have shielded, but they don't. They fire off the Psychic Fangs, debuffing my defense, but it doesn't really matter. We're going to go for the full Mud Slap farm down, and I'm just going to fire off a Dynamic Punch straight away. I wasn't sure if I'd live 2 Powder Snows, so I played it safe. It looks like we would have actually lived 2 Powder Snows there, but it doesn't really matter. We fire off the Dynamic Punch, grab a shield from the Shadow Ninetales, and the opponent's going to swap into their Toxapex. Now, my Switch Shock barely comes up now. We're going to come in with the Frost Sass, and despite being a Shadow Pokemon, Brine still doesn't do much damage. We are resisting the Poison Jab damage, so didn't really need to shield that. They're not going to be able to farm me down. So now we can fire off a Shadow Ball. Shadow Ball does big damage up against the Toxapex. At this point, I'm definitely going to use my shield. But we're looking to be in a great position here as the opponent is going to overfarm. We're also overfarming. We throw a triple axle here as the opponent swaps back into the Ninetales, but they use their shield anyway. So at this point, this is game over. We can just safely no shield the Frost Sass. We've got very close to back-to-back Aquatails already loaded on our Quillfish. So we farm up to the back-to-back Aquatails. I might as well just throw them straight away here. No point taking any risk. They could be running Side Shot, which would hit for super effective damage, but instead we take them out straight away and we resist everything here. We should be able to live a Sludge Wave, but but I'm going to no shield, oh sorry, I'm going to shield anyways, just playing it safe, fire off the Aqua Tail, and on Aqua Tail from this range will be taking out the Toxapex, and I'm able to take that game. So GG to our opponent there into the next battle. Can say a Charger Bug in the lead, so not great. Gonna say swap into my Shadow Frostlass, and the opponent's gonna stay in initially, banking a ton of energy, but not throwing any of it, and swapping into a Toxapex. So this is fine with me. We fire off the Shadow Ball connects, and we're able to make it to a second Shadow Ball on the CMP tie. So Shadow Ball number 2 is no shielded once again with flip switch advantage, and that's absolutely huge for me because I've got Shadow Golurk in the back, which will completely wall the energy from this Charger Bug. Assuming they're not running Crunch, they go for Discharge there, so it's probably going to be X-Scissor and Discharge. It's very unlikely to be Discharge and Crunch, but either way, we're going to swap into our Quillfish. It's still a little bit tricky for us if the opponent does double shield, but I'm going to go straight for the Ice Beam anyways. Ice Beam does connect, it does big damage, and that should just guarantee the win at this point. Going to no shield the first move as they go for a Dark Pulse. Fine with me, we can fire off an Aqua Tail. An Aqua Tail should be grabbing a shield at this point. It does grab the shield there, but we're looking to be in a pretty good position, although that Charge Bug does have a lot of energy, so we've got to be careful of that. And since they do outpace me here, I'm thinking, if I shield this, they can probably snipe with the Charge Bug. So instead, I'm going to no-shield that, come in with my Golurk, and the opponent looks like they're trying to catch a Charge Move there, but it backfires, as now I can just safely shield up one of the Charge Moves. They will make it to back-to-back X-Scissors, and I'm going to come out with back-to-back Dynamic Punches loaded, so I'm going to throw them straight away into Mandibuzz coming back in. I could technically go for one extra Mind Slap if I wasn't sure that the Dynamic Punch would get the KO from this range, but I'm pretty confident. Dynamic Punch does take out the Mandibuzz, and I'm able to take that game. So GG to opponent there into next battle. You can see Drift Blimp in the lead, so we've learned from our experiences with a Drift Blimp, there's no point going for Ice Beam just because they're probably going to shield and try to debuff me. So instead, I'm going to farm up to the Ice Beam, then bait with an Aqua Tail, and we grab a shield, and we're still going to be able to live a Icy Wind here, so I no shield, and the opponent does bait with the Icy Wind. We can now fire off an Ice Beam. We are debuffed, but this Ice Beam is going to put them into range where we can snipe with the Frost Sass, get the Powder Snow farm down, and they come in with an Obstagoon. So this is actually a pretty good matchup for us, especially with a shield advantage, as we can just boost up our attack here. The opponent will be letting the first one go through, as that does make sense. At this point, get a shield. The opponent also boosts up their attack with a Night Slash boost, but it doesn't really matter. Counter is still resisted. We boost our attack once again with the Triple Axle. At this point, we are double boosted. I might as well just shield here. The opponent goes for a Night Slash. They swap into Clefable, but that's okay. We are double boosted. Shadow Ball will be coming through. It gets the one shot up against Clefable. We can just Powder Snow, farm down the Obstagoon, and I'm able to take that game. So GG to the opponent there. Apologies if my commentary isn't as good as usual. I have obviously just basically done commentary for the full battles and then realized that my camera wasn't on, so I'm maybe slightly less energetic than compared to the first time I tried to record this. But either way, gonna stay in with the Quillfish. We go for the Ice Beam, grab a shield there, and that's what I was talking about in the intro there. Obviously, I could have swapped out, but I decided to just grab a shield advantage. Now we can come in with Frost Sass, use a shield, but get a huge farm down, and Frost Sass's energy is so deadly. We know that already. We're gonna go for the Triple Axle as they come in with a Thunderfang Steelix. So I could potentially swap into my Shadow Golurk here, but instead, gonna stay in. I'm just barely able to reach a Shadow Ball on the CMP tie. Shadow Ball is going to be no shielded, and they come in with a Drapion, and here this is a big mistake. If you are a non-Shadow Drapion up against a Shadow Golurk, Aqua Tail will not be enough damage to get the KO there, whereas if it's Shadow on Shadow, Aqua Tail probably does put them into Poison Sting farm down range. So do just bear that in mind. If you're running a non-Shadow Drapion, you have to commit to the crunch up against Golurk. But either way, GG's to that opponent there into the next battle. I'm gonna see a Quagsire in the lead, so gonna say swap into my Frost Sass once again, and the opponent will fire off a charge move. And once again, it's not going to be a Stone Edge, so I'm going to no shield. They go for the Aqua Tail, and then they swap into a Drift Blimp. So going straight for Triple Axle. Triple Axle is, of course, going to grab a shield, and we get off a few boosted Powder Snows before they do farm me down. But still a very awkward situation to be in, because we're going to come in with the Quillfish. They will outpace me to a charge move before we make it to the Ice Beam. So I'm going to shield this. The opponent does bait with the Icy Wind, which is unfortunate. But with the boosted Powder Snow damage, even a debuffed Ice Beam should be enough damage to take out the Drift Blimp, and we do take them out. We're going to come in with the Shadow Golurk, and they come back in with the Quagsire. But we are, of course, already down one shield. Now we are down to 0 shields, and they come in with a Drapion. Now here, I should have gone for one extra Mud Slap because we go for the Dynamite Punch, but it doesn't quite take them out here. And now the opponent can just go for an Arcatel. Arcatel also doesn't take me out, which is actually slightly worse for me because now the opponent can come in, get a slight energy advantage with the Quagsire. We're not going to reach back-to-back Arcatels before they can make it to the Stone Edge, and unfortunately a Stone Edge from this range will certainly be enough to take out the Quillfish, and we do lose that game. But GG's to opponent there into the next battle. We're going to see a Drifblim in the lead once again. So once again, going to farm up to the potential Ice Beam and then fire off the Arcatel here. So I'm expecting to grab a shield. And if I don't grab a shield, it doesn't really matter as a second Arcatel will pretty much get the KO anyway. So I'm just going to fire that off straight away. And then I think I will just stay in with my Quillfish here. Wait for the opponent to throw the energy. If they bait, then that's fine. And if they don't bait, that's also fine. Shadow Ball does take out the Quillfish. But we've got a shield advantage. We're going to come in with the Frost Sass. And this one I realized they're actually running Hex. So I might as well shield this just in case they're also on Mystical Fire as a slightly unorthodox moveset there, but either way, it doesn't really matter. We are debuffed, so I swap into my Shadow Golurk, and the opponent comes in with a Flygon. So at this point, I'm going to farm up and fire off a Shadow Punch just before we make it to back-to-back charge moves. Shadow Punch does grab that shield, and the opponent throws straight away, which is a big mistake, as that will allow me to make it to Shadow Punch number 2. And Shadow Punch will, of course, take out the Flygon here, and the reason I shielded my Golurk was just because I realized that these Mud Slaps will put them into range where I can very easily take them out with my Frost Sass. They go for the Brine, they get the KO. I could have gone for a triple axle and then fired off the Shadow Ball, but instead we're just going to go for back-to-back Shadow Balls. First one does big damage, the second one certainly going to get the KO from this range, so we go for it straight away. Shadow Ball gets the KO, and I'm able to take that game. So GG's to opponent there into the next battle. We can see a Jellicent in the lead, so this is very tricky for us. I'm actually just going to stay in, wait for them to throw once again, and once again I can't really throw anything into the Jellicent, so I might as well just bank this energy. I will live the Shadow Ball just barely. I swap into my Shadow Golurk. Typically I didn't use Golurk as the safe swap, but in this situation I need that Mud Slap damage, so we go for the Shadow Punch. The opponent actually no shields there, but they've got an Umbreon in the back, so kind of makes sense. At this point I'm actually going to shield my Golurk just because I am running Dynamic Punch. Dynamic Punch would do a ton of damage in this matchup, so we're going to throw on the CMP tire with the next foul play. Dynamic Punch is going to grab a shield from the opponent, but that's also okay with me. At this point, going to let the Golurk go down. If I shield again, they can probably just snarl farm me down and shield again. So either way, we're going to come in with our Frost Sass. We do have a lot of energy on the Quillfish, so I'm thinking if we come in with our Frost Sass here, I'm going to shield this first one, and then I will swap into my Quillfish. I'm going to go for a CMP tie sack swap here, but then I realized I actually had more energy than I thought on my Quillfish, so I actually had back-to-back Arcatels, but it doesn't matter as I grabbed the final shield anyways, forcing them to throw the energy straight away. We now come back in with the Frost Sass, and they come in with a Charger Bug, so going straight for Triple Axle. Triple Axle does about 50% of their HP, meaning the next one, already boosted, will get the KO here, and we do have an energy advantage up against the Umbreon coming back in, so maybe to make it to another Triple Axle in just 3 Powder Snows, and Triple Axle will be enough to take out the Umbreon, and we're able to take that game. So GG's to opponent there into the next battle. Can see a Shadow Whiscash in the lead, so obviously not great for us. Gonna say swap into my Frost Sass once again, and the opponent is going to catch a triple axle onto their Umbreon. So of course, not ideal for us, and that doesn't really do that much damage as well. They get a full snarl in as they swap there, which is a really nice play. And unfortunately at this point, I can't really shield because I can make it to another triple axle, but that still won't quite KO, so I figured I might as well just let it go down, come in with my Quillfish, and I should be able to take out the Umbreon with my Quillfish, but they do actually overfarm here, and they overfarm because they are running Psychic, and that does big damage. It also drops my defense, which isn't ideal, but I'm going to go for the Arcatel. Arcatel will get them fairly low. I'm going to farm up 2 back-to-back Arcatels before I throw the next charge move, and Arcatel from this range should be enough to take out the Umbreon, and I've got an Arcatel loaded to throw into the Whiscash coming back in, but it's still going to be very tricky for us. We're going to land the Arcatel, swap into our Shadow Golurk. The opponent throws on poor timing there, allowing me to get a full Mud Slap in for free. They go for Skull, they don't get the debuff, but I realize they are just 1 Mud Shot away from the next charge move, so I go for the Shadow Punch, and unfortunately it is shielded. The opponent will get off another charge move. I'm going to shield this, and it's just a Mud Bomb this time around, and they've got a Malamar in the back. You can see my Switch Lock just barely isn't quite up yet. I would have preferred if it did come up straight away, because that way I go for 4 Mud Slap, swap, make the catch, but unfortunately, because I had to throw a charge move there, we won't be able to go for an extra Mud Slap and then swap, so I waited 2 turns. I tried to make the catch, but the opponent holds onto the energy. They can then fire off the foul play, taking out the Golurk, and unfortunately we do lose that game. But GG's to opponent there. Into the next battle, going to see a Gastrodon in the lead, and the opponent's just going to go straight for a body slam here, which is a very easy no shield call for me. That does very little damage as it is resisted. But they're going to come in with a Charm Clefable, so they will be able to guarantee switch advantage by shielding up one charge move. I figured might as well go for the Shadow Ball there, as I'm only making it to 1. But either way, we're going to come back in with the Qwilfish, and because they're running Swift here, they will actually outpace me to the first charge move. And whilst I could live this pretty comfortably, I might as well shield just because they do have a Mud Slap user in the lead, and if we get too low, then they will just be able to farm me down. But either way, I'm going to fire off the Arquitel. Arquitel actually grabs the shield from the opponent as they swap back into their Gastrodon. Now at this point, this should just be another Body Slam, so I'm going to no shield. It is the Body Slam. Once again, not dealing that much damage. We can go and fire off a Shadow Punch here. We do overfarm just slightly. Shadow Punch gets the KO. If they come back in with Clefable, I will just barely reach another Shadow Punch with my Shadow Golurk. Shadow Punch gets the KO, and the opponent's going to have a Drift Blimp in the back. So at this point, this should be fine. We're going to go and fire off the Ice Beam straight away. Ice Beam is going to do big damage, and we should be able to make it to an Arquitel before they reach a charge move or before they farm me down. An Arquitel from this range will be getting the KO up against the Drift Blim, and I'm able to take that game. So GG's to opponent there into the final battle of this video, and once again, like in the first battle leading into Toxapex, so once again, gonna stay in and wait for them to throw. But if the opponent does overfarm a lot, then that could be tricky, because you can see we're already at 100 energy before they throw. But luckily for me, they don't overfarm too much, so still gonna bank the energy, swap into my Frost Sass, and again the opponent's gonna swap into a Mandibuzz here, so could be the same team that we saw in battle number 1, this time swapping into the Mandibuzz instead of the Diggersby. But either way, it's gonna be the same result really, as we can just go and shield this up as the opponent goes for the foul play. So actually they will be able to make it to another foul play here. I wasn't sure, they might have got damage registration error there if I tried to go for a full farm down, so I play it safe. I go for the triple axle. I realize I might as well just double shield here, as it probably will be Diggersby in the back, and it is the Diggersby in the back. Again, not really sure why they didn't come back in with the Toxapex, but either way, I'm gonna fire off the triple axle. Triple axle grabs the final shield, and at this point I'm gonna have to let the Frost Sass go down. The opponent goes for Fire Punch, that gets the KO. They're probably gonna swap straight away into their Toxapex, so I'm actually gonna come in with my Shadow Golurk here as the opponent tried to catch an Arquitel onto the Toxapex, but that's okay. And even though Brian is super effective, Brian will not get the KO there, and we are also going to be double resisting the Poison Jab damage, so I farm up as much as possible. I was hoping to get a full farm down, not quite able to do so, but it doesn't really matter. We are lagging tons here, but we are able to make it back into our Qwilfish, firing off back-to-back Arquitels. First one does big damage, and the second Arquitel will be enough to take out the Diggersby, and I'm able to take that game. So that's going to be it for today's video. If you did enjoy it, please make sure you leave a like, leave a comment letting me know, and as well, don't forget to respond to the question of the day if you haven't done so already. And if you want to see more content like this in the future, make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on post notifications. That way you'll be notified whenever I upload a new video. And if you want to take your support even further, you can now become a channel member with perks including early access to new videos, shoutouts at the end of each video, custom loyalty badges, and custom emojis to use in the comments. I want to say a massive thank you to everyone that has already become a channel member. Your support is greatly appreciated, and with that being said, thank you all so much for watching today's video, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.